Let's take an example of the most recent event that happened that was in the news. The Van Gogh painting was attempted to be destroyed. It was not destroyed. Obviously, it was. Welcome, everyone, to our podcast, The Oops Chronicle. My name is Miles. I've got Alaric here with me. And today we are going to discuss about environmental activism. Has it gone too far? Does it make any difference? Is it really impactful? That's what I would like to discuss today. I personally feel that environmental activism has gone too far. And rather than making a positive impact, it's creating a negative image about climate activism. What is your take on it, Alric?
This is the amazing thing that has happened with when we decided to talk about environmental activists. The first thought came into my mind was environmental extremists because they are giving a pattern of extremism. My thoughts and my mind changed during some of the news articles I was reading for this podcast and research I was doing. I changed my mind. I don't think they have gone too far, and now I'm in a position where I believe that their methodology might be different and their methodology might stand out, but I believe what they are doing is not too bad.
Let's take an example of the most recent event that happened that was in the news. The Van Gogh painting was attempted to be destroyed. It was not destroyed. Obviously, it was behind a protective glass, but they threw mashed potato on it. And then again, the usual, they glued themselves to the wall. Do you think that created a positive image? Of course, it got clicks. I understand the whole reason behind doing that was to get maximum number of reach. They wanted to reach as many people as possible. I understand that. I completely understand that part. What I don't understand is what kind of image are they creating? Thousands and thousands of climate activists has endorsed them for their stunt. But here's the thing. Those climate activists endorse them already do believe in climate science. They already do believe in climate change. The whole purpose of a climate activist is to convince people who do not believe, who do not want to take any action towards climate change. Do you think a person who does not believe in climate change, who does not believe in climate sciences, who does not believe that we need to start taking precautions, gonna look at that stunt and say, hey, oh my God, they have done this, and I need to start caring about my environment? Do you think they're thinking in that manner, or do you think that they are actually thinking, what the hell are these guys doing? Why are they trying to destroy a masterpiece? Have they gone crazy? What do you think?
There are so many questions that you have raised, but before we address any of those questions, what we need to understand is does not matter what methodology they choose to raise their voice and bring attention to themselves, it's not going to work at this day and age. The reason for that is our modern media, the mass media, and I believe the whole media is sold out and it is up to the media what image they create. Because what we have been fed is the one side of the story, the just stop oil. They know very well that the art was behind the protected glass. Their intention was not to damage the art, their intention was to raise awareness. But
Of course.
before I was researching for this podcast, before I was trying to get to the bottom of it, what I always thought was their intention was to damage the art. And that is why I was thinking this is stupid. This does not make any sense to cause destruction in protest.
Now, if that's the thing, they knew it was behind glass. They always knew that. And I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disputing that fact. What I'm saying is someone like you who thought they're actually destroying the art and someone who did not go a step further and started researching about it. In their mind, it's completely fixed. Oh my God, they tried to destroy the art or they destroyed Van Gogh. That's what that person will be thinking.
Now,
And that was
lack of research are just of oil to be blamed, or our goldfish brain is to be blamed? Because at this modern society, we are habituated of vertical scrolling every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds. We are just watching TikTok videos and Instagram reels. And if we did not find it interesting, we just keep on swiping it. And at this point, we do not have the patience, or we just don't have the patience to go on and research on any topic. What we do at this time is easily find it to label, and peer pressure is too much. And if a lot of our peers are labeling something as extremist, we are going forward with that. And I strongly believe the media that is covering them as extremists, there is a oil corporation lobbying behind it. There is a corruption going on. Before I started researching for this podcast, I did not know that how much damage did the oil companies have caused to this earth. I always thought oil is essential for us. And I was on the viewpoint that we can't just stop using the oil tomorrow. And so we cannot choose an alternative path right away. And whatever these activists are doing are not going to help us anywhere. But if you look at the history, all the protests that were in the form of this extremist style, I would like to call it an extremist style, because that's what UK government, English government is classifying it as. So all this extremist style protest has taken place. If you look at SPU, that is women, the organization that fought for the rights of women, Emily Davison gave her life. She jumped in front of a king horse in a 1930 derby, and she was overrun by a horse, and she gave her life, and that raised a huge awareness. So this type
Yeah,
of radical protest has been happening throughout the history. Now, what is the opposite of radical protest? What is the solution? If this is not to be done, what are the other ways for them to raise awareness? The legal way for them is to take a permission for a protest. They can have a protest at the public places or at the sidewalk. How many of those protests have been successful so far? How many of
yeah,
them?
that's the thing. That's the thing. The protests are also creating a negative image these days because of the government's narrative, because of how the media projects the protests. So that's creating a negative impact as well. So that's why I feel like the climate activists have gone too far. They need to step back. They need to reevaluate their strategies. They need to reevaluate or completely reinvent their methodology, because the existing method are not going to work in this day and age. Anything that you do, whether it's throwing a mashed potato at Van Gogh, painting the streets of London in front of the Prime Minister's office, painting the streets, again, that's not going to create any positive
Okay,
impact. The first thought that came into my mind when they painted in front of Prime Minister's office was like, how much resources they have actually wasted while painting in front of Prime Minister's office to clean up. How much water was wasted to clean that up? How many plants, trees got destroyed in that cleanup when they painted everything pink in front of the Prime Minister's office? Rather than thinking about they did something good for climate activism, I started thinking they wasted additional resources. Maybe it was like an a decimal and 10 zeros, 1% of damage, but that was still a damage.
you know about the pussy rights, right? The Russian female
Yeah.
activist group.
Yeah.
So when it was happening in Russia, when they were peeing on picture, President Putin's picture, the Western media was with it. They were happy about it, in fact. Do you agree with that?
Actually, I don't think they did that in Russia. I think they did that in Berlin after leaving, running away.
Their early stages of protest was also there in the Russia. They were
Yeah.
walking on the road, they were singing and all those things. I don't
Totally
know
was in
about
Berlin.
that incident had that being on the President Putin's portrait, but the other early stages were also in Russia, and they were arrested in Russia multiple times. At that time, the Western media was calling Russian government a totalitarianism and a lot of other that sort of words, and were not claiming about the protesters, even though they were involved in the same act as this climate activity. Now, when the same kind of a act happened in the northern part of the globe, the media is against them. Everyone is saying that what they are doing is wrong. So can someone just walk up and present them an alternative? Instead of destroying the art, What else can they do to raise the awareness? And I think they have done a very good job in raising the awareness, because right now, a lot of many people are talking about them. So I believe right now many people are hating them. 80+% of Germans hate them. But someday these people will want to see what were they talking about. And that will be too late for them. But at least someone is trying to do a job. So what is the alternative for them? What else can they do?
So to answer your first question, first off, these days, I don't think it's absolutely something new. It has been this way since the age of radio, transistors. Yeah, anything that goes against the government's narrative, anyone who goes against government's narrative is labeled as extremist. These days, we see that so much is because of the platforms that everyone has right now. All the social media platforms, the news channels, everything can feed you junk information 24/7. And that's what I feel like the algorithms have gone so bad now, or the algorithms have so much junk now that it's automatically feeding the junk to everyone else, even to the people who might have never bought into that sort of junk, that sort of news or anything, or that misinformation or false information. There is so much junk right now on the internet. The algorithm is just force feeding everyone. So rather than having a positive impact, it's always impacting people in a negative way. People are starting to believe more and starting to buy into conspiracies even more than they used to. Whether it's conspiracies, whether it's misinformation, whether it's everything, because and you might have noticed the same thing as well. You and I, everyone uses social media these days. You watch one video, whether it might be for a research, whether you just want to see what's actually going on, and the next minute you are automatically recommended with 50 different videos which have the same narrative or the same misinformation in it. Right. Imagine surrounding yourself with that sort of misinformation 24/7. So that's the problem. Anyone that goes against the government's narrative across the world, whether it might be any country in today's day and age, someone who goes against the government's narrative, they are labeled as extremist. Now, second thing, what can they do differently? What can they do differently rather than acting in this manner? So, first off, like I said, yes, they got a lot of clicks. They got a lot of clicks. They reached so many more people that they might have never reached if they have not done that before. But the problem is, again, I'm pretty sure people who already believe in climate science believes them, applauds for them. But people who don't believe in climate science are gonna simply label them as extremists, like the media self, and move on. They're gonna abuse them. They're gonna, when they see them, they are gonna be afraid of them. They might be unintentionally hurting them or intentionally hurting them. But I don't feel like they are gonna do the research. They are gonna look into it, saying, "Hey, what were they talking about? What was the problem? Why did they do that?" They are not gonna look into it. They are just gonna simply label them and move on. No one has time to do the research. No one have the will to do the research. No one has the strength to do the research. And feels like we are, as a society, we all are mentally degrading, intellectually degrading to actually do the research. As a society, all of us together are degrading. What can they do differently? Can they do differently? They are not the only, that is not the only type of stunt they can produce to bring change or make change. There are a lot of activists who bring change with the means of art, whether it might be digital, whether it might be physical, paintings, fashion shows, everything. There are so many different things as well they can try. Yes, the impact is not as big as, or the number of clicks are not as huge as when they compared to these stunts, but little by little, maybe they can start influencing people rather than with a knee-jerk movement. I would say, rather than doing a knee-jerk movement, they can actually start creating impact little by reevaluating their strategy, moving on towards things that media and everything needs to consider, needs to look into it, and should not be able to label it. That's what I feel.
Okay, so the alternatives you presented, they are already there. And have they worked? Not at all. There are so many documentaries on this. Or let us first discuss what are they exactly trying to say. Let's forget about the climate science. It does not matter you believe in climate science or you do not believe in climate science. I believe in climate science, but I was against this climate activist. And right now I'm in a two-way junction where I don't know if I support them or I'm against. The thing is, I want to do something about it, but I cannot find a way or I don't know how to do it. And obviously, just cause oil was the most radical movement, and they were the people who were causing the most disruption. And they said, they already have said at the time of this recording that going forward in the coming years, their protests are going to be more peaceful, or they were already peaceful, they are going to be less destructive. They are not going to disrupt the art, they're not going to stop the traffic, they're not going to disrupt people's life anymore. That is stated.
Again, just one organization, right? One organization might have agreed that they're not going to do destructive activism.
That's the organization that destroyed the Philippines. That the organization has caused the.
Yeah, the Van Gogh was destroyed by Stop the Oil, but before that, the other one where they threw the ketchup or tomato on it. There was another stunt couple of months before the Van Gogh incident but that was a completely different organization. That was not Stop Oil. In these two incidents have two different groups, two different organizations.
But let's just say you don't believe in climate science, but do you still value human life?
Yeah.
So we are talking about this climate activist who is, and we are discussing about them because of the Western media at this point. What about the Shell company? Let me narrate you the story of the Shell company. What exactly the Shell has done. Nigeria have a very huge oil reserves. We all know that. Yet Nigeria is not rich as Middle Eastern countries. The reason behind is Shell. When Shell started digging for oil over there, they choose the path of bribery, and they had some kind of a weird contracts where only Shell will be able to manage to extract the oil, and then the transportation will also be done by the Shell. The Nigerian government was not able to take any actions against them. For the reason, even if before that, you need to understand that Shell has the control of 50% of the money flowing in Nigeria. And we all know if you control the currency, you control the nation.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Shell did not act alone. Nigerian government was openly corrupt to begin with. The whole reason Shell was able to implement those policies on Nigerian government was because government people sitting in decision-making positions cared rather about filling their own pockets than the nation's treasury or the population's pocket. They cared more about filling their own pockets. That's why we are seeing a coup right now that's going on in Nigeria. That's why the people are revolting. There's a civil war. That's why the military is revolting. Everyone's fighting against each other. People don't like the government. People don't like the military right now. Military does not like the government. The government is trying to save itself. There's a coup. That's why the coup happened last month in Nigeria, because the Nigerian government was openly corrupt to begin with. It was not like Shell choked them.
I would not say the Nigerian government was openly corrupt to begin with. The Nigerian government got corrupt because it was under a lot of pressure. They cannot stop the Shell, because if they stop the Shell, then Nigeria will collapse. There will be a civil war. There will be a lot of riots because the Shell company controls 50% of the cash flow, and Shell has influence over many banks and many other corporations that invested in Nigeria. Stopping Shell was stopping all those corporations, stopping all those banks. That is the reason why the Nigerian government has to bend before Shell. The corruption was not the only reason for that. So now, if they bended, they very well take some money. So Shell gave the money to the government, and then, you know how many oil spills that happened in Nigeria? There were more than 7,000 oil spills. They destroyed the ecosystem, that destroyed the rivers, that destroyed the farming land, that pushed back the country in poverty. The government was not getting rich. The people was not getting rich. The only Shell corporation was getting rich. Now, there are two things that happened. the majority of the Nigeria, it depends on the fish farming and on the farming as well. So there were no more fishes, there were no agricultural land because of Shell's oil spill. And those oil spills only happen because of Shell carelessness. Now, just the good corporation to take the blame and do what's good for the nation. And you know what they did? Right? The gangsters. They bribed the gangsters to break their own pipelines. And when the gangster did, the Shell company put all the blame on gangster that because of them, because of this civilians protesting, the oil spills has happened. And now there were a lot of peaceful protests, not the just of oil style of protests. The peaceful protests were happening with the local tribes. Moreover, there were like green tribes that were doing the peaceful protests. So now the Shell has the problem that they might lose their ESG score. So to protect that score, they ordered Nigerian military to take action against these protesters. And the Nigerian military killed hundreds of people and arrested one of the tribe leaders. And his name was Saro Viva. He was arrested with 8 other tribal leaders. And he was only organizing peaceful protest. And he was hanged till death. So what is going too far? All corporation has gone too far. All this climate protest.
Here's the thing. I totally agree with what you say, what you just said about Shell. But here's the thing. Shell is not the only reason why Nigeria is in the state throughout Africa. It's a pattern. After colonialism, countries have started choosing one or the other path. There's a lot of history that is within Africa. But here's the thing. After colonialism, still, they had those resources. It's not Shell immediately jumped into Nigeria after the colonialism era. Again, the government was corrupt to begin with. They, instead of utilizing the natural resources to help develop their government, to help develop their nation, to help develop their population, Nigerian government always focused more towards, not I would say government, the politicians always focus more towards themselves rather than the country or the population, running the false narrative. They are in depth of China as well right now.
Nigeria was a poor country. Nigeria was a poor country that was only relying on fishing and farming. Nigeria
was poorly managed country. They had a lot of resources which Shell is utilizing, which a lot of even after
utilize those resources, you need the investment to start with. And Nigeria did not have that investments. Nigeria did not have that money.
Yeah, most countries did not have that money after colonialism era. Most countries, I would say about 80% of the countries across Africa did not had those kind of resources, did not had those kind of funding. Countries found a way. That's what I'm saying. Countries either choose one path or the other. Some countries found a way to find resources, to find a way to utilize those resources, and countries found. Nigeria again is not.
What we are trying to say here is Shell is not to blame. The local government is to be.
I'm saying that Shell plays a bigger role as well, but Shell is not the only one to blame. I'm saying Shell is not the only one. I'm not saying don't blame Shell. I'm blame Shell, but Shell is not the whole reason behind everything that's wrong right now in Nigeria.
I go against this narrative because what I believe in is the weak does not have a power. Only the stronger ones have a power to make just or to be corrupt. And in this scenario, the country as a whole, Nigeria was very weak, and a single corporation could have easily overpowered Nigeria. It was the responsibility of the Shell alone. Maybe instead of being corrupt, maybe instead of bribing the Nigerian politicians and the military, Shell would have taken steps and developed Nigeria as any other Middle Eastern country. That could have been a possibility.
Like I said, countries chose one or the other path because Nigeria is not the only country right now who's completely corrupt and poor within Africa or throughout the world. Countries chose their path and they are bearing the consequences. But on a positive note about Nigeria, and let me know in the comments below how many of you know this, but Nigeria produces the highest number of world gambler players. They produce the highest amount of world champions or world championship contenders in the world.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is the on the positive note. Let us know in the comments below if you want.
Okay, Anshul. And the thing that you talk about, the mass media, the social media, and how the algorithms work, and how is the algorithm is affecting our life and decisions, we are going to discuss that in the next podcast.
All right. So coming back to it, I don't have the exact answer. That's why I'm telling you, climate activists need to reinvent themselves. Someone has to think of something brand new. That's because the current methods, the old methods are not working, are not producing positive results. They might be getting them a lot of clicks, they might be getting them a lot of attention, but it's not creating the positive impact it is supposed to create. That's why I'm saying they need to reinvent themselves. What is it? I don't have the answer myself. I know that sounds kind of just recommend something when you don't have anything, but I don't have anything. I don't know what else they can do, but what they are doing right now is not going to bring change at all. Is not at
Uh,
all going to bring.
do you think protesting in any way or the people have any impact over the decisions of these corporations or the government at this stage?
That is a very conflicting question because throughout the world, throughout the history, you have seen protests did make change. But in recent times, you have seen throughout the world people protesting, pressurized, silenced, jailed, labeled as extremist, or thrown in for life. So it is a very conflicting hot topic right now, which whose outcome, I don't know if we will be able to see that in current times, maybe in next couple of years or within this decade, we might see the result. But at this moment, I'm not able to see any kind of positive outcome, any kind of impact, a positive impact or change those protests are bringing. I don't see that happening because people are protesting. That's their right. But government is taking those rights away across the world. A lot of countries have made protesting illegal in recent times. And again, countries who are allowing you to protest as well, the media is labeling them as extremist or terrorist or something, or media is letting people connect the dots that they have linked with some sort of terrorist organization or something. But it's not getting projected in a positive manner. Why are they protesting? Is it really bad? Is it really bad that they're protesting about it, or what? People are not at all thinking about. People who have already made up their.
Is really bad. Forget about the climate change. Let's not
No,
talk
not
about climate change. Let's
I'm
say the
talking about
climate.
generally a whole process.
No, let's just say that climate is not being affected by the pollution we create, and does not matter how much carbon we are going to produce, the weather will not change. So let's totally forget about that. Let's just say we are dependent on oil right now. So does everyone agrees that we are going to some point
Maybe,
have to agree?
maybe, but here's the thing again. That is also a very debatable topic as well. I remember very well when I was at least 8 or 9 years old. I remember I used to see an ad saying that we are going to run out of petrol or petroleum by 2005. We used to see that. I remember it very well. And then 2005 came. We found new resources of oil, new pockets to drill, and then we found more oil. And right now, I feel like we have so much oil that yes, we might run out of oil maybe in 50 years, maybe in 100 years, but we have a lot of oil right.
So I never thought that there might be people out there who believe we have plenty of oil. The reality of fact is no, we do not have plenty of oil. We will be running out of oil soon. In 100 years, yes. 100 years is a very short period of time.
But yes, that's what I'm telling you. The reason I told you the entire story about watching that
Maybe
TV
the
ad,
ad that you saw were like more dramatized and they were exaggerating the figure.
no, that was an actual thing. That was an actual thing that people actually thought that we are going to run out of.
Just I never heard of anything that said we are going to run out of oil.
Look it up. But immediately we started finding new hits, new areas to drill with. That was
My African reserve are not finished yet. The Middle Eastern countries are still producing oil. Russia still have oil. the old pockets have not been done yet. So it's not that we have run out of any of the pocket oil.
I'm telling you, I exactly remember that ad. So coming back to my initial answer, I don't have the answer what they need to do differently, but they have to do something different. They have to reinvent themselves. They have to reevaluate their strategies and everything.
Let me tell you what I believe is happening. All these big corporations, all this big carp knows that we are going to run out of the oil. And do you know why the Shell does not care about the Nigerian people and Nigerian lives? And not just Shell. As a matter of fact, any big corporation of the first world country, governments do not care about the people. Can you imagine the reason why?
No,
So I believe somewhere in their head, they still think that these third world countries, the poverty driven countries and populations are still a peasants and they don't care about those people. All the wealthy people care about is living their luxurious lifestyle, and they know that even if the global warming happens, even if we run out of the oil, it's not going to affect the wealthy, it's not going to affect the rich. They will always find a way. They, I mean, because the whole of the planet Earth will never be destroyed. It's just that we will have a lot less land to live upon. So the rich guys will always be able to buy. It will only be the poor who are going to suffer. And that is why I believe the super rich do not care about the human lives. They do not care about the climate change. They do not care about what this oil spills are doing and how many people are dying because of it. So that's a matter of fact. And does not matter what this climate activists do, it's not going to affect anyone. Does not matter what path they choose. The media is never going to give them the limelight they deserve. As we just seen, the Pussy Writers, they were very good people when they were doing it in Russia. Now these climate activists are doing the same thing in the Western countries, and they are the winners here. They are so much of a villain that they have been like categorized in the same way as Islamic State terrorists or Al Qaeda, because there is an organization in the UK that is called as Prevention Scheme. It prevent is any kind of extremist attack related to ISIS or Al Qaeda or any other terrorist organizations. All these essential rebellions, they were one of the protesters. They used to have a peaceful protest. So they were even in that prevention list. If you're a college student, you're a college professor, or you're anyone, you are talking about the climate change, you're talking about joining this existing rebellions or this just stop oil, you will be in that list and appropriate actions will be taken against you. What is it? Is the government going too far?
government is going to screw everyone. Every single government is going to screw the population. That's what I have. That's what I feel like in today's day and era, that governments are not working for the people. Governments are only working either to protect their seats in the next election or to fill their own pockets or both.
The problem is we are living in a society where we need to trust everything to survive. In the previous days, I would say it was a trustless society. You know why it was a trustless society? Because there were kings. The peasants know that they cannot trust the king because the king is always going to be think of the welfare of their own royal families. And the peasants know that they are just a peasant. Until they do something extraordinary, they will never be into the royals. So it was that was a truly trustless society. Everything was honest and everyone knew that. Right now, we are living in a society where it requires enormous amount of trust for everything to function. Right now, the people have an illusion that each and every one of us is equal. A politician is equal to a normal person, but I still see the today's society as seeing kingdomship. A politician is still a king, and a normal civilian is still a peasant. And the reason for that is even our voting system. It requires trust. Who counts the votes and what is the evidence that the counting is correct? I have never verified the vote counting myself. And even if I have verified, why are you trusting on me? Husband,
That's an inherent issue, you can say, or inherent personality trait that we all have inherited from our ancestor, that no one trusts anyone, and probably it will never happen, even if you're living in a utopia and where everything is right, still someone will not trust you or not believe you or will relentless.
all we are going to talk about utopia in coming episodes. So let's not go into the utopia right now. But as I was saying, in the kingdoms, in the time when it was monarchy, there was one king and it was trustless. We did not needed to trust anyone. We knew that he's the king and next his son is going to be a king and we can't do anything about it. But right now, we are in the illusion that we have the power to choose our king or our leader. That's a bloody illusion because
Yeah.
and because, as you said, it is inherited that we do not trust. No, it is inherited that we trust. Because how humans have evolved is we needed to trust. When men go out to hunt, they need to trust each other to watch their back. We don't have 8 eyes like the spiders. So men always each other as a teammates. They trust on their lives that the fellow next to me is going to protect me, the animal is going to attack me from the behind. This is what the problem is causing us right now. We are inherently evolved to trust each other, that we are trusting every system blindly. We trust this voting system. Either it is EVM, electronic machines for voting, or the manual counting, it does not matter because the general population has never had any chance to verify the votes. What does it matter? Authority.
Yes, but here's the thing. People have to trust some things. People have to take a leap of faith. That's why there is a whole concept of leap of faith. People have to take a leap of faith because if you start in,
That is the illusion that brought up. That is the illusion that is stated. You do not have to take a leap of faith. You do not have to trust everything.
I'm not saying everything, but you have to trust something. You have to take a leap of faith in a lot of things. If you start doubting every single thing, every single second of your life, you will not get done anything. You will just be thinking about how much mistrust you have about on others and how much mistrust you have on your life will be stuck at a single.
In the days of monarchy, when there was kingdomships and when there was king, people knew. I'm saying it's a trustless society is because you knew that he's a king and he's a royal family. And whenever a problem comes and whenever they are in the danger, the royal family is always going to sacrifice pieces to save their own.
That was a fact, but people took a leap of faith that, hey, maybe they will still help us after they protect themselves.
Those days, no one took any leap of faith. It was all well planned. People used to plan their lives accordingly. They never used to trust their like kings or anything. Yeah, you used to love, if a king is kind, people used to love them. But everyone knew that we have to work hard for ourselves. We have to not expect anything from the government. These were the clear, defined boundaries of the social culture. But right now, we have evolved in a way that we have the power to choose our leader. I think this is the greatest illusion, that everyone believes that they have the power to choose their leader, and democracy by the people, from the people, for the people. That itself is so bullshit. Idea is nice. The idea is wonderful. But there is no way how the governments are functioning right now that they can implement it.
I will have to take a leap of faith in that area. I think
No, it is actually how long the blockchain has been there.
10 years.
That, if you're not talking about just bitcoins, the blockchain technology has been there since 18 years. Now, if a government wants, they can build a trustless society based on a blockchain. I will say at least 10 years back. You could build a society where there is no need of a leader based on the blockchain. You can have a votings on the blockchain every day. Imagine the whole population of a country having their own wallets, and whenever there is a new bill need to pass, everyone just vote from their mobile phone, because everyone get a vote share on their phone. For every policy, for every bill, all the population should be voting. So then,
Yes. You're looking at it from an eyes of a software engineer. Look at it from the eyes of a layman. People already don't have any trust when they moved on from ballot paper to electronic voting machines. People already don't trust them. Imagine you as a government came up and said that, hey, we are going to use a technology called blockchain, which you are completely not going to understand a single part of it, but it's going to be completely secure.
blockchain technology is 100 times easier than EVMs to explain. And when we say that people do not trust the EVM, that's a false illusion again. Because when the EVMs was introduced, people were way happy about it. And they started distrusting the EVM machine only when the corruption actually happened, only when the EVMs were hacked. The first time there was a problem in the EVMs, that time people started raising their hands. Oh no, this is something shitty. We don't understand how this works, and we are not going to trust the government anymore. Now, any of those errors will never happen with a blockchain.
Now, again, here's the thing. I'm not talking about the entire population, but locally, in my personal friend group, when EVM was introduced in our country, most of my friends, including myself, were not even at the age where you're eligible to vote. We were not even eligible, but still we were thinking how easy it is, how easy it could be to hack an EVM machine. It's an electronic device at the end of the day. That's what we were thinking when EVMs were introduced, and we were not even eligible to vote at the time. So I'm not saying the entire population might have been thinking like that, but how many more were thinking like in that manner, like me and my friends did? How many more people were thinking in the similar manner? I will not say that everyone trusted EVM as soon as they were introduced, no matter in which country, no matter in which year. In talking about my personal experience in my closed group, all of us did not trust that. All of us thought the exact same thing. How easy it is to hack an electronic device. Even though we had no idea about hacking, we had no idea about how electronic devices work.
You just as hacking a paper ballot box. As simple as that. You can hack a paper ballot box, you can hack a
Of
EVM machine. So let's not talk about this blockchain versus EVM versus paper ballot box, because that will be an episode on its own. So getting back to the climate activists, does it really matter what they do? Because we know what type of control the media have over the mass population, what sort of a government have control over the mass population. And we know the government does not want to do about it right now because they know they are safe.
So move past media. I would say maybe 5 years ago, maybe media narrative would have worked, but right now we have moved past media narrative. Doesn't matter because we have been force fed so much misinformation. Even if the media started doing right by everything, talking about everything, we have moved past media. Any given moment, let's say your favorite journalist or favorite website or news source prints something that is completely against their own narratives, that has been their own narrative so far, and that has been your point of view so far, immediately people are even rejecting that media or rejecting that journalist or person, saying that this person sold out or this media sold out today. People have moved past media now because of media's own fault, because of social media's and every other form of media's own fault. People don't have trust in their own personal brand of media as well, because the moment they change their narrative, even if they do right by climate activist or any kind of activist, general population will say, today is the day this website sold out to the other side of the partisanship, or today is the day that
the root of the problem is our governance system, the democracy. I'm just speaking out loud right now. I'm not against democracy. I'm not against the power to the people. I want power to the people, but in a right way, because I say the democracy is not working out right now. Imagine this. If every single person, all 75% people in your country are corrupt, then you're going to build a government of corrupt people. Or 70% population in your country are morons, then you're going to build a government of corrupt people again.
even with a country where you have 80% of population that's completely honest, still you will see an opposite number in the government, because it's not exactly 1:1 when it comes to government. It's always the loudest person that's sitting in a governing chair, and the loudest person is not always the right person or not always the honest person. It's only about how loud you are. I'm not talking about
And to be loud,
I can use loud. Sorry?
and to be loud, you need to be rich.
Yeah, to be loud, you need to be rich. Of course.
You need to
Of course.
because all the algorithms you talked about earlier and all the media we're talking about, it is controlled by money because these algorithms are not naturally evolved. As a software engineer, I used to think and I used to believe in what you say, that these algorithms are naturally evolved and they are going to present you the videos of what you like or what you view the most. So if you are not a climate believer and you are viewing these conspiracy videos, you will be fed with the conspiracy videos. But that is not true. These algorithms can be sold. The government controls what the people are watching right now on this media. It is just a gladiator arena again. We used to have a gladiator arena in Rome to divert the general populace mind. And right now we are having TikTok, Instagram, and Meta or whatnot. They are the latest gladiator arenas, and they are about developing you.
Sadly, I have to agree with you.
With useless, pointless information. And even if you look at most of the good websites that publish articles, I have this habit from a very young age. Whenever I read a article, I always look for the source, what exact research paper has given this. So right now, it has been very common that there are no sources any longer. People are not pointing the sources, and even in Wikipedia, you read the article and it will say something, and when you look at the source, I have seen it a couple of times happen. The source says the complete opposite thing. So even in Wikipedia, the writers are misquoting the source or quoting the source out of context, and then it is being published. So at this point, there is nothing you can believe.
That's why I say somewhere at some point you have to take a leap of faith, because we are getting polluted with so much pollution in terms of so much information pollution right now. You're not able to see clearly, think clearly, hear clearly, speak clearly. You're not even sure whether your own opinion is your own. If you are sure, I'm pretty sure in next couple of years you are going to be at a point where you're not even going to be sure whether your own opinion is your own or not.
I don't think there is creativity anymore. There, because if you look at any songs, any movies, any stories, any artwork, that can be traced back to some ancient age. That original idea has evolved somewhere. So whatever the opinions we form are not there. There is no opinion of our own. Everything is formed based on what we listen. And there is a bias that if you hear, if you have no opinion on the climate, and the first thing you hear is against the climate change, it is more likely that for your whole life you're ever going to change that opinion. You will be still that's one of the human biases that we had even before this mass media.
That's such a person who has already decided that the climate science is not real. No matter what stunts they do, no matter if the media takes their side, their own personal favorite brand of media takes the climate activist side, they are not going to believe it, because their neurons have been wired that way in last 10 years or 15 years because of the false information that constantly got fed and which got amplified in last 10 years. It getting amplified year by day, year by year. We are stuck in information pollution right now.
Yeah,
We need an information activist.
there are many information activists right now, but we are fighting a lot of things with huge amount of data and a huge amount of researches going on. The p value in the research papers, we are confused over many things because it is possible that most of the researchers are maybe wrong or they are maybe right, because the humanity as a whole, when it comes to the data, when it comes to the fact, we are living in an illusion, especially when it comes to the government. So it does not matter if you believe in climate change, you have to believe that we will run out of the resources. We have to do something about the oil. We have to work on getting on the green energy. Even if you don't believe that you are going to run out of oil, just think about this. Do you want to
Yes. So I'm at a conflict at that point. You're telling me we are going to run out of resources. I agree. But again, I don't think we are going to run out of resources in next couple of decades, or maybe in a century, in 100 years as well. I don't think we are going to run. We will find new pockets. We will find new resources. We will find new ways to tap into resources that we have never even thought of. And I just looked up the article that I was talking about. The article was published in 1973 saying that we will run out of oil in 2005, not because the oil resources are going to be emptied, but because we don't have the technology to drill deep inside the ocean. The article clearly states a person right there, Gary something, saying that deep ocean drilling is a fantasy. That's what the person says. Deep drilling in the ocean is a fantasy. It will never happen. And by 2005, we are going to run out of oil. That's the article I'm looking at right now. By
We have crossed that technological barrier a long time back.
in 1999,
He was right.
we figured out a way. I looked up the follow-up of that article. In 1999, we figured out a way to do deep ocean drilling and oil extraction. And I'm pretty sure we're going to find some resource where we will say that's going to be impossible for us to bring oil from the moon. If moon obviously does not have an oil, but if someday, let's say someone finds out we have oil on the moon, people will be like, it's impossible to bring oil from the moon, but someday will figure out a way.
Which is still a topic of discussion about climate science, about if you are going to run out of the oil and what should be done. But think about this, even if you're never going to run out of the oil, do we want to have an energy source which is a lot cheaper than oil? Because if we are no longer relying on oil and petroleum product for our transportation of goods and all those things, everything will be a lot cheaper. So do we want that or not?
Yes, everyone wants everything cheaper, but here's the problem. So the technology is not going to be cheap right at this moment. It'll be decades before the cost becomes normalized or comparatively inflated but lower than what we are paying right now for coal energy or gas energy or oil energy. It's going to take a long time. So if you ask 100 people, most people will prefer something cheaper, which is going to be cheaper right now. Not in a decade, not in 5 years. If you select 100 people and tell them, hey, how about like
Electric vehicles are already cheaper. Electric bikes, electric cars, electric trucks are already way cheaper.
we have cheaper petroleum options. We have cheaper petroleum options. Affordable and cheap is completely different thing. Yes, electric vehicles are affordable. I'm not saying they're not affordable, but you have cheaper options.
I agree with you. They're not exactly as cheap as the petroleum product at this point, but maybe someday in the future,
They're affordable. I completely agree. They are affordable. You have a lot of affordable bikes, bicycles, cars.
Tesla or any other organization that is working on bringing EV vehicles to consumers, they should actually bringing EV vehicles to consumers are not going to change anything. What they should be working on is revolutionizing the transport industry, the ship.
I have a simple solution for that. All the EV companies across the world need to come together, act like Illuminati, and collectively lobby against the oil industry.
That's not going to happen. There is only one EV company. How many EV companies are there? How many electronic? How many?
There are so many. You have Citroen, you have Tesla, you have Tata, you have
Tata?
Yeah, Tata electric cars.
Hold on. Let's not say the companies which already produce petroleum-based cars, diesel or petrol-based cars, they are not the EV companies. Because if they wanted to produce EV vehicles, they could have done it 50 years back. The technology was always there 50 years back, but they did not. Right now, they are only producing electronic vehicles because Tesla have proven to them or proven to the world that electronic vehicles are possible. So now they do not have any other option. So they say we have to give it into that. And now just for the sake of consumers, they are into producing the electronic vehicle. But it was not there.
There are a handful of companies who were completely dedicated towards EV vehicles. You have Tesla, then you have, ironically, you have Nikola, then you have...
What I will say is all these companies has to work on revolutionizing the transport industry rather than focusing on the consumer side right now. There are big ideas that could very well work. You can put a solar powers in the complete Sahara Desert and we can produce...
Yeah, but here's the problem. I think that can be a topic of an entire video. Why it is impossible to do that?
I believe it's possible.
I believe it's impossible.
Why is that? Let's do this. In the next episode, let us discuss about algorithm and how our brains are being shaped. What do you say?
I'm saying that activists around the world, any kind of activists, need to reinvent themselves. Old methods are not working. Whether you're an activist against the destruction of the planet or destruction of the oceans, or if you're a political activist or any kind of activist, everyone needs to reinvent themselves. The old methods are not at all working. That's my message.
I believe no type of activism is going to work. What happened in Hong Kong, what happened in China, what happened in any other place, there was not even just a climate protest. There were many kind of a protests that nothing works out.
Yeah,
Nothing.
that's what I'm saying. Old methods are not working. They need to reinvent themselves. They need to reinvent their strategy, reevaluate their strategy, come up with something new, come up with something that no one has ever seen. And I don't have the answer to it, what it is, but you, at a point, no one had an idea that she was going to jump in front of the king's chariot. But she,
No one actually had an idea that they're going to throw soap and a painting. It's the same.
nah, it has been happening for actually years. If you look at the news, it's been happening for years. It got a lot of attention in social media even, but it has always been happening. And again, those things are rather creating a negative image about.
I believe does not what climate activists do. The media will always bring them as villains. And that's the reality. There is nothing they can do.
Let us know in the comments below what you think they should do. What you think that they should do differently, or should they continue doing the same thing? Do you think that they are actually creating a positive impact, or do you agree with me that only the people who already believe in them, believe in the climate change, are the ones who are supporting them, cheering for them, and others? I feel like everyone else is just rolling their eyes and thinking they're extremists doing extreme activities. That's it. Let us know.
Let me know in the comment that the protest should even be happening in the first place, or we should just be living a slave's life at this point, because I don't think there's anything you can do about anything.
And that's all for today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, or you can give it a thumbs down. Comment, share, subscribe, whatever you like. Have a good day.
Have a good one.